It's gonna get real for a second.
You can do anything, guys. You heard it here.
Yes. Take over the world. Woo!
Take over the world. It's yours.
The world's yours. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to, as long as you just put in the work.
Well, and here's what I really like about this podcast and what you're doing here is that, like I said, it encourages people, it empowers people, and it tells them the truth about themselves, which is that they're awesome,
They're awesome.
and that they can do it.
Wow. How amazing is that? Guys, welcome back to the show. Today we have the coolest guy on here. I'm not kidding. He is so cool. He's one of the hardest working guys I know, has one of the best just work ethics and character that you're going to find around here. Guys, welcome to the show, Phil Heckel.
Sweet. Thanks for having me on, Mikey. I really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Really appreciate it. This is going to be awesome.
Guys, Phil is, I'm not kidding. He was one of the hardest dudes out there. If it's raining outside, he's probably already been out running in it. If it's 5 a.m, he's probably the one like already at the gym. So we're going to have a really good day today talking about recovery and getting into kind of just what it means to be a modern man. So this is going to be a great show. Phil, how about you introduce yourself? Let them know who you are. What's your brand? What's your mission? What are you about?
Yeah. So like you said, my name is Phil Heckel. My brand, I'm just all about discovering my potential and pushing that ceiling in life just higher and higher and realizing there really is no ceiling. So just pushing the limits of what I can do and what I can achieve and wanting to just max out that potential that I have as a human being. And, that's kind of my mission. It kind of ties into the mission. The brand ties into the mission where I want to inspire people to realize that there is no ceiling on what they can do. Doesn't matter your background, doesn't matter where you grew up, what kind of family life you had or anything like that. There's no ceiling. You just have to break through that first level and then the world's yours. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to, as long as you just put in the work.
Well, and I think a lot of the listeners actually really believe that. I think if they don't, by the time they're done listening to this, they will. Right. There is no ceiling on what you guys can accomplish. There's just, through connections and getting resourceful, you can do anything. So that's your brand, Phil. You are Mr. Unstoppable.
Exactly.
Awesome. Great. Well, let's get into it. I want to know, what do you do for recovery? And more specifically, what is kind of the tone or the focus? How do you actually do that recovery?
Yeah. So for me, I've put myself in a place where now I've got a routine that keeps me going, I guess you could say. Recovery is not as often needed, but my types of recovery, things that I've adapted into my routine, like the sauna, like the steam room, like listening to ambient music and listening to affirmations and having affirmations, things like that.
Sure.
That stuff empowers me. The cool thing about recovery is it literally is different for everybody, but these are the things that I've found that's worked for me that helps me to stay in like a flow state where I just keep going.
Well, and I don't want to cut you off, man, but like whatever's easiest for you. If you want to actually take us into what is a day in the life of Phil, and then show us what recovery goes to what activity or whatever, or if you want to just talk about recovery, but whatever works best for you, man. I'm excited to hear kind of what's it like to be Phil.
Yeah. So I'll go over my morning, because that's just my powerhouse time when I'm just most effective. And for me, I wake up at 4:00 and I have everything ready for the day the night before,
right?
Which is a huge thing for me that I slowly started to do, just like different aspects that I was like, oh, I can do this the night before, so I don't have to worry about it in the morning and stuff. That keeps me going. Yeah.
Preparation is the key. Always the key.
That preparation. When you get up and you don't have to think, oh man, what am I going to wear? Oh man, I need to collect my stuff to go to the gym. Oh man, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat before I leave? Like all this stuff. That just drains you and it makes doing the task just suck. It really does.
Especially when you just woke up.
Yeah, when you just woke up, you don't want to do anything. You're feeling really lazy.
Right.
So when you wake up and I've got all my stuff laid out, it's no question. Like my feet hit the floor, make my bed, say my prayers, and I'm just rolling. Just one thing after another. It's like, it's just so streamlined that it doesn't exhaust me. And it used to. Like back when I was waking up this early, but I didn't have those things in place, I would wake up and like that first half an hour was just like, oh my gosh, I gotta get things together. How, like, what time am I gonna get to the gym? Just like trying to hustle through it. And by the time I get to the gym and I'm working out, I just feel like I ran like a marathon.
Right.
And it would just bog me down and I'd get super exhausted. And halfway throughout the day, I've just like lost any energy to make decisions.
Right.
So wake up at 4, everything's laid out, clothes are ready, gym clothes are ready, breakfast is sitting on the counter, supplements are out on the counter, like ready to go. So that first hour, I do all those things. I read 10 pages of a self-development book, read my scriptures, and then I'm out the door, out the gym at 5:00.
Sweet. So that's first hour.
That's the first hour. And I literally execute that hour the same way every day. I try not to like
It
change
gets too
things.
easy after a while.
Yeah. It's like, I try not to change it too much because it's become so effective.
If you guys
It's
have
like-
ever read Atomic Habits, this is the habit stacking. You just get so used to, I wake up, I put my clothes on, I brush my teeth, and then immediately your body just knows, oh, then we're doing hair, then we're grabbing our shoes, then we're out the door. It's just, it becomes such a flow state kind of operation.
Exactly. And that's probably one of the books I'd recommend for anybody who wants to learn more about like why I do this and how effective it is. Read Atomic Habits, because that book will, if you implement those things and you start out at a small scale, because like you have to grow into it. I grew into like doing it as extensively as I do.
Right.
But if you do that, your whole world will change. Like everything in your life will change because you actually have control over things. But go to the gym, hit the gym for an hour, sometimes an hour and a half, just depending on like what my goal is, what I'm trying to achieve. If I'm adding running into that in the morning, then yeah, it's like an hour and a half, hour 45. Then I hit the steam room, hit a cold shower right after. Then I get ready for the day. So immediately when I leave the gym, I'm just ready to rock and roll. I don't have to go home and waste time taking another shower and all this stuff. But the steam room is a big thing for me. When I can hit a sauna at like a different gym, I'll hit a sauna because you can stay in there a lot longer. But I'll hit the steam room. And for me, I've got waterproof headphones. So I'll just sit in there and I'll either put ambient music on, because the ambient music, it just like calms you down, puts you in like a mode where your mind is clear. You can just think.
Nice.
Your mind isn't cluttered by thinking about what you're about to do or what you have for that day or whatever. You're able to just clean the slate and then think about what you want to think about. Like whether it's goals or whether you're thinking about something you really want to execute on today that's important to you or somebody you need to talk to. You think about what's like vital to you instead of just thinking about, oh my gosh, I've got all this stuff I have to do, and getting overwhelmed by things that like honestly are out of your control. You kind of just have to like let those things go.
That's a hard one for some people to accept, the this is out of my control kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just focusing on what you can actually control in your life, which, I mean, the biggest things you can are yourself and your kind of, Tony Robbins is always talking about this different states, and you're going from being in a super, killing it state in the gym to suddenly you're like, oh, I need to calm things down. I need to, get to where I'm mindful and I can just focus on whatever I want to focus on. I mean, guys, you don't recognize maybe you do, but maybe you don't recognize this is a super high level skill that people practice in the early morning, just like this, where they're trying to get it to a point where they can either bring their heart rate up or they can get, some sort of, stress on their body, and then they can force themselves to calm down. Or, find some sort of way to assist yourself to calm down. Because when you can do that, it actually trains your brain. It runs that neural pathway over and over so that when you're stressed out during the day, you can actually make your emotions calm down. And then you're ready to go and you're able to just focus on what you need to do, like Phil's saying. So this is not just good recovery for your body. It's really good for your mind. It's really good for kind of your spirit and being able to get back to that kind of self-identity and realign. So cool,
Right.
Phil.
Dude, I totally agree with that. And it all bounces into your daily life. At the end of the day, all these things that I'm doing, I've seen it affect my day to day.
Sure.
Where, yeah, I go throughout my day in like high stress scenarios. I can walk away and walk into the next discussion with somebody or the next problem and not like have that weight still over me or that stress of like that moment. It's just like, you kind of just let it go and you're like, okay, time to move on to the next thing, time to compose myself, time to like clear my mind and take this head on. And
I think I like, because I love hearing that, because that's the tone. I'm going to take it head on. Like, a lot of people don't do that. And the thing is, I think that a lot of people, when they get into a routine, sometimes it's hard for them to actually maintain that, because it's a routine now. You're used to it. You kind of lose that fighting mentality. I guess, what is it that helps you kind of keep that mentality of I'm still progressing, I'm still pushing the limits?
I mean, you kind of have to, that's where a vision comes in super important. Having a vision for like what you want to do, what you want to achieve, but more importantly, from the sense of like developing these skills mentally and emotionally, you want to have a vision for like the type of person you want to be.
Wow. Yeah.
Because as you go through it, if you've got an idea of like, hey, I want to be this type of person who's comfortable in these scenarios, who reacts properly, who doesn't let stress like tear down their whole day, where they're able to bounce from thing to thing and be like a new person with a new attitude every time. When you keep in mind that type of person you want to be, you'll be more focused on like getting the most out of your routine, but then two, the moments where that routine is put into action, where it's like, hey, I've been practicing this, putting it into action now.
So cool. Well, and again, guys, I mean, coming back to that self-identity, that's the biggest thing that I've heard people say as far as spiritual recovery, coming back to center, whatever you want to call it, realigning with your identity, making sure that you have that vision, but not just a vision of where you want to go, but who you want to be. Because the thing is, if you're really going to be, I mean, you guys have probably heard this, but like the number one thing you can do today to actually build your personal brand is authenticity. And that's having the same things you're saying, thinking, doing, and that doesn't come from having a vision of where you want to go. It's a vision of who you want to be. Because that means wherever you are your brand, you are who you are, and you're being authentic about it. And that's, frankly, it helps a lot of people, especially in moments of crisis, because they go, no, this is me. I'm Phil. I take it head on. Yeah. I start small, but then I get consistent, And so this is, anyway, huge thing. I just wanted to throw that out there, but.
Oh, that's awesome. And I think at the end of the day, with any goals that you're pursuing, you have to understand who you are first, like admit your flaws, admit like your weaknesses.
Sure.
And just peel it back and then understand, okay, who do I want to become or who do I need to become to get these things?
Sure.
Because once you realize that, then the routine becomes more real to like you, because you're like, okay, I'm doing this so I can become, not I'm doing this so I can get X results of like money or this. It's like, no, you have to become that person first. And the routine doesn't necessarily just equal money. It equals you becoming somebody who can create that success and create that money or that business or that happiness, like whatever the result is. It all starts with you. And that's why the routine is so important.
Well, and I think that's so huge, because the thing is, along the way, you will stumble and you will fail. Oh yeah. And it's like, that's not a bad thing. We're trying to, fail forward kind of thing.
Yep.
You want it. I mean, if you're not failing, you're not trying. And so the thing is, it's like, but in that whole pursuit, because your plans will change, like guaranteed, you will have goals that won't work out until you get to a certain level to where you can sustain results.
Yeah.
The thing is, along that way, you need to keep coming back to self and saying, no, I'm that guy. I don't give up. I keep going, or maybe, or you need to change that interior voice or, identity and say, I do ask for help. sometimes changing that interior dialogue can make all the difference. And usually when you're feeling that resistance, that's where you need to focus in on. Like, Phil, I want to ask a question because I think a lot of listeners cringed the moment you said that you take a cold shower.
Yes.
I want to know, was it easy to start doing cold showers? How do you think it benefits you? You know, why is everybody doing cold showers? I do them, but I want to know your experience. Cold showers.
So with the cold shower thing, I hate it. I hate cold showers. I mean, they are painful. I would way rather stay in the steam room for another 15 minutes than do a cold shower.
Absolutely.
But therein lies the reason why I do it. At the end of the day, it's like, one, there is a lot of health benefits and a lot of mainly the health benefits that people focus on. But for me, I attacked it and I do it because of the mind.
Absolutely.
Because I want to embrace things that I literally hate. Things that, like, the resistance is so strong between my mind and taking action. I want to literally execute those things, because then it just tells my mind, hey, no matter how hard that looks, or no matter how scary that is or whatever, you can do it. You're capable of
totally do it.
Yeah, it's like, you can do it. You just did this. And it's like, when I first started doing cold showers, oh my gosh, it was just painful, and it was really, really difficult. It was difficult to convince myself to do the first cold shower I ever did.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I still hit those moments where it's just like, oh man, this is going to be terrible. Like, I don't want to do this.
No,
but
it comes back around.
Yeah, it comes back around. You always have those thoughts because it's not fun. But then that switch just flips in your mind and you're just like, you know what? No, this is what we do. I do hard things.
Sure.
I do hard things and I get through it, and I'm doing this so anything else that I encounter throughout the day or throughout life seems like nothing.
I think it's the same thing. Here's the thing. I believe, like you said, when you can make your mind do a cold shower, you can make your mind do just about anything. And the thing is, technically, like, if we're being real, like, that cold water is pretty harmless. Like, it is not going to hurt you. It is not going to do anything that's going to be bad for you. Like, the only thing it's going to do is either, depending on how you're doing it, it's either going to help you make, brown fat and lose weight, or it's going to help you really learn to concentrate your mind, which I think is the greater benefit. Because my goodness, guys, after I take a cold shower, the rest of the day, I mean, my resistance to things is like almost not even there, where it's like, oh, I need to read my book now. I don't feel like it. I don't feel like it, like, doesn't even come around, because it just goes, don't mess with Mikey today, dude. Like, he's on one. Like, it just, like, suddenly the resistance to, like, everything is just, like, gone. And I have no idea why it is. I just know that my brain is when you're cold like that, your brain is present and, like, you're doing something very intentionally.
Yep.
And I think those are just the two biggest. If you can be intentional and present, like, you can conquer the world.
Right. And I hope your listeners really caught on to what you just said there, that when you, like, the greater the difficulty of what you're doing and you're intentionally doing, like, the easier everything else becomes. I think people often, like, they don't really take that into account, that, like, if you can, and people apply this to working out. I've heard people talk about this recently, where if you go and you push yourself and you're sweating and, like, your muscles hurt, because, like, you're working yourself. You're forcing your body to do something really uncomfortable. Other things that you encounter throughout the day are not going to be that big of a deal, because you literally built a mind that's capable of doing hard things intentionally, not because somebody forced you to, not because, like, oh, I was caught in a situation. It's, you're intentionally doing hard things. So all these things that life will throw at you, regardless of what you try to do, seem like nothing.
Well, and I know, so we kind of went over your morning routine, and I know throughout the day, you're just working hard. You're always doing stuff, but and there may be something in there you want to mention, but I'm actually more curious. And I think the listeners would like to hear about your night routine, because, guys, if you do not get sleep, it's really hard to get up at 4 every day.
Oh yeah.
and you'll pretty much lose your mind.
Yeah.
And like, it's just like, you need to get that sleep, but the preparation leading into going to bed to actually make sure that your mind knows, hey, we're going to bed right now, you know, and also kind of the social sacrifices and things that you might have to put in to perform at this level.
Right.
I want to hear about those. So Phil, what's your night routine like?
Yeah. So the night routine, so I've been working out and doing 2-a-days for a long time. So that's always been a part of like my nightly routine is coming home.
All the listeners right now are just like, come on.
Okay. Like, yeah, I know, for real.
They're just like, what?
Right. It's like, I started by going to the gym for a half hour. Sure. And I was waking up early, started going to the gym for like half hour, built it up. And all this happened over 2-3 years. So it takes time.
Boom.
I mean, if people can just understand that, just start, it takes time, but you can get to a really good level, a level you feel good about what you're doing and where you're at and the results you're getting.
Right.
That just takes time. But so I come home from work, I typically cook some food, like high protein meals, of course, a lot of chicken, more chicken than I could ever imagine eating. But so eat a meal. Typically I'm listening to like a podcast, or I'll pull up a YouTube video where I'm learning about something, whether it's investing, Bitcoin, something new, something that almost a form of recovery is like, while I'm eating, I'll listen to something that, yes, it's good for my mind, but it's not necessarily like something that
you have to pay a ton of attention to.
Yeah. I don't have to pay a ton of attention to, and it almost gives my mind a bit of relief from like the same material that I keep listening to. Where it's like, here,
switching from one kind of work to another is like a reset almost.
Yeah. It's like, it's like taking a break from the big focus, still learning something that's important that could help me, but it kind of relaxes the mind. You're just learning something new.
Are there some times where you just like totally zone out and you're like, that's okay? Because even though I didn't get anything out of that, like my brain feels like it got a break kind of.
Right. Yeah. Sometimes I play the video and I'm eating and I won't even think about the video. I'm thinking about other things.
Yeah.
Eat a big meal. And sometimes I'll either hit the gym again, or lately I've been doing a lot of running. So my meals are a little bit smaller. Then I'll go out for a run. And right now it's 4 to 6 miles, and that'll become more and more as I go throughout the summer, as I build up to that 100-mile race.
Yeah, guys, if you didn't think it was crazy enough, Phil's getting ready for a 100-mile race, which he's going to be training for this year. And let's just talk about, I mean, not that we want to skip the night routine, but like, every time I get back into running, I always hurt my ankle or my knee or something. And if I am not rolling out, and stretching and doing a warm-up walk, like, I cannot get up to that whole, like I've gotten to where I've done like 13 miles before. Yeah. Right now I could probably do like 2, but like, what kind of recovery are you doing for that? Is it just the sleep and the sauna and making sure that you're walking during the day?
Yeah. So that morning routine is a big key thing in recovery. But once I'm done with my runs, I have to stretch. Like sure. I've realized from my personal experience running and not stretching and not doing recovery, how much it jacks up your legs and your joints and stuff, but also from other people's experiences, that it's not good. You can't go without it, because in the long run, you're just going to deteriorate so fast. So I'll get home, and to go back to the nightly routine, I'll do my run about an hour 15, just depends how far I run, come back, stretch and wind down. And a part of that, again, to go back to recovery, a part of that recovery is stretching. I've got like my massage gun, and I'll typically turn on ambient music or something where I'm learning from like Jordan Peterson, or maybe an audiobook or something like that. Or I'll just sit there in silence, like just depending on what I'm feeling and what I feel I need. Because I've had plenty of times where it's just information overload throughout my day, where it's just like, okay, way too much, where I'll just like literally sit there in silence and stretch. And then of course I've got like my supplements. So I'll take like magnesium right before I go to bed. Depending on how I'm sleeping, sometimes I'll take like a little sleep aid. And I've got like other supplements that I take if I need it. I try not to take those like every night because I just feel like you
No one
can.
wants to.
Yeah, it's like I don't want to. It's like you can adapt your body to sleeping correctly if you do it consistently enough.
Sure.
And then I'm typically in bed by 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah. And do you fall asleep pretty quick, you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm typically pretty tired. When you're waking up at 4, you go through that whole routine and then you go to work and you're working all day for 8 to 10 hours. Then you come home and you do another run. I like the fact that like by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. That's something that like is satisfying. It's not something where I'm like, oh, why am I so tired? It's like, no, you pushed yourself. This is a good thing. And you want to be tired when you go to bed. If you're not tired when you go to bed, try to do more throughout your day so you can literally like hit the pillow and fall asleep. That's how you'll get a good night's rest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
like,
and I'm curious, do you think you're naturally an early bird, or do you think that's something you developed?
I wouldn't say naturally. I think I developed it. So as a kid, my dad on the weekends. So of course we had to get up for school during the weekdays. Then on the weekends, my dad was like, you guys can't sleep in. He's like, I don't care how late you stay up, you can't sleep in. And we're like, okay, whatever. So we would always like stay up late thinking it's not a big deal. And we'd stay up till like 4 or 5 in the morning as kids. And then he would literally wake us up at like 6:30, 7 o'clock and be like, okay, let's go to work.
Yeah, you learn pretty quick.
Yeah, you learn
we
pretty
like
quick.
Sleep.
Yeah, it's like, okay, sleep is important, but then you kind of learn in some situations to live without sleep. And that's something that I've always like turned to where I'm like, okay, that definitely helped with the early bird thing. But I wouldn't say it ever came naturally or it was like easy, but it just gets easier over time. I think for me, I just realized how important it is.
Sure.
Like that morning, my mornings are effective. It's when I'm productive. It's when I feel good. I feel good throughout the day when I have been productive in the morning, when I do wake up that early. And there's something about waking up before most people wake up where you're just like, I'm after it.
Right.
And that in and of
mentality
itself,
going.
Yeah, the mentality that in and of itself will motivate you to execute on your morning.
I know a lot of guys that by noon, their mental capacity to like force themselves to work is gone. So they're like, I get all my work done by noon. And then like some of them go hit the gym later after that or something like whatever. But it's like, get your stuff done early, get it done in the morning.
Yeah. And I think people, of course, like there's extremes to everything. People might look at like my routine and be like, oh, that's so extreme. Well, yeah, for you, for like certain people, that would be extreme and it's unnecessary.
Right.
And if people would just look at their daily routine, look at the goals they want to accomplish, most people would find out, oh man, if I put in like 2 hours in the morning before I went to work, I can get to my goals by the end of the year. Yeah. And still have my freedom in the afternoons to be with my family or my friends and enjoy life and whatever. People you have to like size your routine up to your goals. And just measure it out.
Well, it's that sacrifice. Like anything you want in this life is going to require some sort of sacrifice. And it's, are you willing to make it? And it's like, most people don't realize that like the way you get up in the morning is you set out your clothes the night before. One of the big secrets is just getting rid of that resistance. And that's one of the questions we usually go over on here is, what kind of preparation do you do so that you don't need to do as much recovery because you're putting less stress on yourself throughout the day because you've set up these rituals and routines and practices that, they just make it easy to make good decisions, putting yourself in that good environment, creating that environment.
Exactly. Yeah. You just create a scenario where you function properly, where you're getting enough sleep and you're executing on things that help you execute on other things throughout the day.
Sure. Well, and I'm curious, Phil, because you've been doing this so long and so consistently, maybe you haven't had something like this in the last couple of years, but have you ever had, a time where due to lack of recovery, you had like a big breakdown where you needed to actually do like you're saying, extreme lifestyles require extreme sacrifice or extreme recovery. You ever had a time where you had like a big breakdown and you just had to kind of be like, okay, like I just can't work anymore. Like I have to just recover right now.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, I definitely do have breakdowns because it is an extreme routine.
You're an exotic car,
invincible,
bro.
everybody. It's like I'm not invincible, but man, those breakdowns do happen. And
Yeah.
when they do happen, for me, I always go back to like in my mind, I'm like, okay, execute on what you know you can control, and then like look for recovery later. And not from the sense of like avoid it, but like I'll still wake up early and I'm like, okay, even though it's just grueling, I'm like, execute on like your reading, get to the gym. But then those days when I do have the breakdown, I execute on the things that are part of my routine. And then I'll find that like parts throughout the day or maybe in the evening, it doesn't go as planned. And I have to like spend more time just straight up recovering.
Sure. Well, and that's just life. Like,
right.
I think it was Jesse Itzler. He was talking about, he's like, guys, like, I don't make daily goals anymore for like running. I don't say I'm going to go run 5 miles a day. He's like, because I've got 3 kids. And he's like, I will now make a goal to run 15 miles in a week, you know, or whatever, 25, whatever it is, because that way it's okay to let it go today. And for a lot of achievers, it's hard for them to say, I'm not going to check that box today. Right. I'm going to push it to tomorrow. Because you start to look at yourself like, am I a procrastinator? Am I that guy? Am I, you know, maybe I just won't do it for a week. Like if I don't do it for a day, like that's scary to me. Like, so.
Yeah. No, I've had those moments for sure where the routine doesn't like go as planned. Like the morning is pretty strict. It's not very often that like derails, but the evenings, like sometimes I don't get off work till like 7:30 or 8 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, how am I going to be back up at 4 a.m.? Like it's like, how am I going to get everything done and still be up at that time? And sometimes things don't get done like they should because I'm like, okay, if I still want to be effective throughout the week, I need to give focus to being in bed at a certain time. So maybe I just do a lot of stretching and I say, okay, I got to make sure I'm in bed and I get my run in tomorrow.
Well, and I'm curious, because I'm the guy. So for instance, this is kind of a story, but I went to a friend's birthday party once and their whole family was there. And the mom was very, very serious about, hey, if we're going to do this part of the birthday, you know, even if we run really short on time, it doesn't matter. We need to like not just check the box, but we need to make an event out of it. And for me, I'm very much like, look, I'd rather check every box, even if my, 15-minute morning meditation has to be just one breath where I really focus in and make that my morning meditation. Like I still want to check the box because I read Atomic Habits and he's scared me to death of missing a day. It doesn't matter if you work out, still show up at the gym, do 5 minutes just to keep your habit going, because your brain knows when you miss it. And so when you're going to bed and you don't have a lot of time, are you a check the box guy or are you, okay, I'm just going to go to bed and, I missed out today?
I'm definitely a check the box guy because the times when I haven't over the years, the times when I did make that decision where it's like, I'm just going to go to bed. I have to go to bed. I go to bed and I wake up the next morning and let me tell you, it's like just beating my brain, dude. I literally just like, I'm punching myself just like, you don't ever do that again.
Oh my gosh.
Like it wrecks me. And I'm a different breed of thinking, I guess, from that perspective, because it will wreck me. So yeah, I'm definitely a check the box, at least give it like something, give it something. Like give it the attention it deserves because that's a part of your life and your lifestyle. And so, I'm a check the box guy through and through.
I think it's good. Ed Milet talks about how he's like, you can manipulate time. He's just big on like, this can take 3 hours or it can take 5 minutes. Your goals can take 10 years or you can try and push them into 6 months. Like bring it closer to you, make it small, make it doable.
Right.
Don't beat yourself up. Like, just get it done. So anyway, go ahead.
In terms of like people, especially when they first start, consistency is probably the most important thing overall. So this mentality of like, oh, I'm just going to go to bed. Oh, I woke up late. Oh, this and this. Like, you have to do something. It doesn't mean like, oh, I woke up late, I still need to get in like an hour and a half at the gym. It's like, if that's you and you wake up late consistently, still execute on going to the gym. Like you said, even if it's just for 5 minutes. If you
woke up late, doesn't mean you don't show up. Like,
exactly. And it's like, if you put a goal, if you put a goal to read 10 pages, but you ran out of time, read 1 page.
That's a big one.
Open the book, read some words, close it, go to bed. Like, execute on it so your mind knows, okay, regardless of what happens to our day, these things are important and these things will get done.
And if you're doing that daily, either writing it down or saying it out loud in the mirror, whatever, of who your identity is.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's someone consistent.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's someone that wants to actually get somewhere. And if you know results at all, they're based on consistency.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really does come down to, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
If you paint that picture of that person, and that person either is somebody who, like, their actions reflect consistency, or like maybe it is specifically like, I want to be a consistent person, then you'll be more motivated to do it rather than looking for some like external like motivation or something like that.
Well, and a big way that people actually get that self-identity is through meditation, through some kind of mindfulness practice. I think everybody I know that's successful has something they do, meditation or mindfulness, that helps them figure out and create, and grow that self, whoever they are, their identity. Do you have some sort of meditation you do or mindfulness practice that maybe you can share with everybody that they can try out? Or?
Well, I would just go back. So before I started doing the steam room with the headphones and the ambient music and stuff to clear my mind, I was doing meditation. It was very difficult for me because, like,
I think it is for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's very difficult to clear your mind, to get in that place when I'm at home. Sure. I found that was the issue, because like at home, there's just like distractions and I need to be doing this. Oh, I should be doing this. Urgency to like execute on.
Suddenly everything else is so important.
Yeah, everything else is so important. And I can't clear my mind. So that's where the steam room, I was able to execute on that really, really well. Because I'm not at home. I'm not thinking about anything else. I just got done with a workout, which is just like you're pushing yourself. So I go and I sit in the steam room, and that's my meditation.
And you probably never miss.
Never.
It's part of your routine. It's part of your habits. Well, and I get a lot of people, I think they write off meditation so quickly. One, because they don't actually believe in the results that they'll get from it.
Right.
But more than that, they've tried it maybe once because they heard that most millionaires and billionaires have some sort of meditation they do.
Right.
And then they tried it at their house while their kid was screaming and their wife was asking them to go somewhere. Yeah. And they're just like, I guess I'm no good at it. Instead of being like, oh, maybe I should set up an environment. Maybe even with, I started out using YouTube, just guided meditations.
Yeah.
Know that it's not going to be perfect. It might not be the one that you like right away. Try a couple, ask friends for suggestions, making sure that you're in a situation where you can actually get peaceful. The ambient music like that, I think that's very common. I think a lot of people like that, so that's awesome. So you mostly just steam room or sauna, that's your place you do it.
Yeah, that's my place where I just get the clear mind, get into the meditation mode. And that's the place for me.
I love it, guys. So guys, yeah, I mean, and I hope that the audience listening to this can connect with Phil, because Phil is an animal and he is just, he goes so hard in every aspect of his life now that I think a lot of people go, well, I'm just not like that. Not recognizing that this is 3 years in the making, Phil showing up 30 minutes a day to the gym, having a really hard time getting through that morning routine and just feeling wasted by the end of it. And the thing is, I think that so many people don't get that we all start at the bottom. And if you want to be Phil, you can be. Like, above all, believe it. If you don't believe it, go say it in the mirror, I mean, it's just like, it's a day in, day out thing. Yeah. So guys, special surprise. I want to talk with Phil about his current plans and what he's going to be doing right now, because you guys need to jump in on the Phil train, whatever we're going to call it. You need to get on what he's on, and he's going to actually take you through his kind of day-to-day kind of over this year. So again, we're going to have all his handles underneath. You're going to need to follow him just because this is what he's up to. Phil, tell them kind of what your plans are. I mean, even coming up really short in the next week or two, and then what you're going to be doing this year.
Yeah. So I'm happy to share that stuff. So later this year, so I guess a little backstory before I talk about the 100-mile race and what led to that. So last year, I had been doing 75 hard, which most of you probably know what that is. You've heard about somebody who's done it or you've heard of it, but you do 5 things every day for 75 days straight, 5 parts of a routine. And one of those is working out twice a day. Well, I was doing that, and that was like pushing my limits and stuff. And I had done it a couple times. And then I just reached a point where I was like, okay, I need something more. So last year I ended up running a marathon. With no training. If I can give you any advice to your listeners, don't do that. Or you will be jacked up for a few weeks like I was. But I kind of just got to a point where I was like, man, what can I do? What's my potential?
Right.
Because I almost felt like I was honestly reaching that ceiling where I was like, okay, wow, I've done a lot. I've like accomplished a lot, but like, is there more? Can I do more? Or am I like plateauing? So somebody invited me to go and run this marathon. And it was the day before the marathon, they invited me. They're like, hey, come out and run this marathon. And if you know the Iron Cowboy or James Lawrence, he did the 100 triathlons. So the day I went and ran the marathon, I ran the marathon with him and a bunch of people on his 100th day. So the day before that, this guy, a good guy that I met, and we became good friends. He invited me. He's like, why don't you just come out and run it? And in my mind, I'm just like, dude, I hate running. Running's terrible. Why would I come out and run a marathon? But of course, that voice came to my mind. It was just like, bro, you got to do this. You got to do this.
Oh, no.
And so I was like, okay, I'll be there. And he's like, oh, sweet. See you tomorrow. So I show up with like, I don't know, a couple PB&Js and a granola bar and a water backpack or whatever. And I ran it. Ended up finishing like an hour and a half after everybody. I think it was like a 6.5 hour marathon. Miserable, dude. It was awful.
Bro, I was actually at the finish line for the 100th.
Yeah?
For the Iron Cowboy, man. My buddy was just like, oh, guys, like it's today. And it's like 10 minutes right drive that way. And we were like, really? Like, let's go. Yeah. It was a moment.
Right.
Iron Cowboy, and then he did the 101st one the next day just to prove that he does one more, anyway.
Yeah, do one more.
Crazy.
Yeah. So while you were sitting there watching the Iron Cowboy give his speech, I was still out there running. So I finished that marathon, and that was a huge pivotal point for me where I was just like, okay, I ran a marathon with no training. When everybody, I'm not kidding, I'm pretty sure literally everybody, even though my mom says she believed in me, I'm pretty sure she doubted me. Because I'm not kidding. Everybody did not think I would make it, especially afterwards when I talked to people. Like some of them told me, but some of them afterwards just like, dude, I didn't think you'd make it. So once I hit that, I was like, man, what can't I do? What can't I do? So that's when
all this power.
All this power. So everything really zeroed in, and
it's a real question though. If you start asking yourself, what can't I do? Like with enough time, effort, focus, the right connections, getting resourceful, what can't you do?
Yeah. You could push your mind, body, and skill set to accomplish whatever.
Pretty much.
So zeroed in on my routine, and long story short, made it around to like November, December. And I was talking to a friend who ended up running 50 miles, and we were both talking and we're like, let's do 100.
Right.
And it was just like, we were just kind of like lightly talking about it. But then by the end of the conversation, it was like, we're doing 100. So signed up for a 100-mile race. That's going to happen in October of this year. And now I'm going through the training of that. I'm running miles and miles a day, and I'm going to build that up to a point where I'll end up probably running a 50-mile race in the middle of the summer, and then taper it back down, run a few marathons, and then do the 100-mile race in October. So that's one of the things that I'm doing.
Oh my gosh.
One of the things that I'm sure people would get a kick out of watching, because it's going to be fun from a miserable standpoint, which not very many people can relate with that kind of.
Oh, dude, everybody on here who's been thinking sure. You're crazy this whole time is like, I'm going to go follow Phil, and I'm going to enjoy watching his pain so that I don't have to put in the work or something.
Exactly. I mean, if my pain inspires them to just do like a fraction of what I'm doing, I've made it, dude. I'm
sure you'll get one of them. Okay, so what else are you going to be doing?
So on top of that, one thing that I realized is like how important change is, and dramatic change. Because I think all too often we can get into like routines and habits and stuff that, yeah, they're productive. But if it's in like too much of, I guess, a controlled environment, it can become just lax. It can become too lax. And then we're not really changing as quickly as we'd like to, or adapting or becoming. So that was a huge realization that I had, that I was like, I need to shake things up. So I'm going to go out and do solar sales out in California. Just going to shake everything up. New place, new gym, new people, new environment, and new skill set, because I've never sold door to door before. So, and I realized how valuable that is. So I was like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to learn this new skill, shake up my whole environment, really test my routine and see how well it adapts to a new place, new job, new everything.
Absolutely.
But I'm going to be doing that for the summer. And a couple of my big goals is I want to do $250,000 income. So I want to make $250,000 from solar sales by the end of the summer, which I'll be ending just before the race. So it's going to be.
Hey guys, he says summer. What he means is he's headed out here very beginning of March, and he's basically going to sell till he hits his goal, even if it takes him till like September before his race.
Yep.
Meanwhile, he's going to be maintaining his 75 hard, if you guys know, phase 1, routine, pushing himself personally, getting his running in. And guys, he's the only person I believe that could do this. Like, guys,
thanks.
Phil, guys, this is why I wanted to have Phil on before he left, because you guys are seeing what a seriously committed individual who has the people skills, and he has determination. He's got all the skills that he needs, but he's going to show you how through daily routine, recovery, and just consistency and believing in himself and really aligning himself and making sure that he's sticking to his daily routine, how he's actually going to do this. And then we're going to check in on his results later. I was texting Phil yesterday, and I was like, oh yeah, dude. I was like, you're going to go out, you're going to sell, you're going to make all that money, and I'm going to get at least 100 podcast episodes up this year. And I was like, and we'll, we can make a bet or whatever. We can check in on each other. And he was like, dude, like, bet or no bet, like, it's going to happen. And I was just like, okay, cool. Like, that's right, dude. Phil, guys.
Yeah, dude, no compromise. You got to stick to it and get zeroed in on your goal, and just realize, like, I'm capable of doing that.
Sure.
I'm capable of accomplishing those things if I pull up my end of the bargain, my end of like what's required of me to reach those goals.
Right. No, dude, I think, and the thing is, anyway, that's a huge, big lesson that you're learning right now, is you need to shake it up. Right. And I think a lot of people don't ever level up because they don't learn that lesson.
Yeah.
You need to shake it up. You need to get out there. You need to change it up. Is there any other really big lesson that you're learning right now that, is really affecting your choice here, or, what you're doing?
I mean, not really. I would say the change thing is the biggest thing. It's
Absolutely.
like just realizing how important it is to shake things up. And like when you look at the lives of successful people, they didn't stay in one place. They didn't stay in one place and just like lived the same life with the same exact people in the same area. Like the people who have massive success didn't do that. They networked, they moved, they traveled, they did these things, but traveled for like purpose. Like there's good traveling, and then there's traveling for business, and traveling for purpose, and they changed. And I think every one of them would say that change is completely necessary if you really want to succeed at a high level. So the change was the big thing, but I kind of want to touch back on something that you mentioned when we were talking earlier about the fact that like who I am today is not who I've always been. Who I am today is not like, I wasn't raised like with a routine. I wasn't raised looking at parents who had a routine.
Yeah.
I wasn't raised around people who were super successful or super rich or had nice cars and stuff. I wasn't raised around any of that. I was raised like my mom lived on a farm growing up, and she was a farmer's daughter and grew up with that lifestyle. So I got kind of the work ethic from her. And my dad was from New Jersey. He grew up a very, very, very rough, like poor lifestyle. So like the combination, a lot of people would look at that and it's like, I'm not a byproduct of like, oh, I was around rich people. I was around people who like are so disciplined and all this stuff. There's certain aspects of character that I adopted from my parents, and I learned a lot of lessons from them. But at the end of the day, I saw the potential out in life. I met people who were successful. I met people who like pushed their bodies and pushed their minds and have reached different levels of like success. And I was like, why not me?
Well, and so many people, you'll see siblings. They have the same parents, the same situation, but one of them learns that, oh, my identity isn't determined by what my parents tell me I'm good at or bad at or should or shouldn't do or whatever. And they learn to take that identity in their own hands and create who they are and decide to be true to kind of their truth, their inner self. And some of them don't figure that out, and they, just go on to be kind of what the world told them to be. And I'm not saying that's always a bad thing or anything, but it's like, you recognize that it's like who you have been is not who you have to be. Like you're saying, that is a huge lesson. That's huge.
You're like, you create a vision for life. And if you're committed to it, you can get it.
Boom.
You can get it.
Well, hey, last question here. And I mean, we could have ended on that.
Right.
But it's like, if everybody in the world was going to see this podcast, everybody, was going to get to hear what you're going to say next. What's your message to the world? What would you want to tell them?
Dude, I'll just reiterate some things that I've said.
Yeah.
You can become, you can achieve, you can do anything. Anything that you set your mind to, and anything that you're willing to put the work in to do. And it's like cliche as it sounds or whatever, or as funny as it sounds, because a lot of people say that. It's like, I'm living proof of that. I used to be somebody who just played video games a lot and didn't do much in high school and didn't put a lot of effort into school and stuff like that. And I've been able to completely 180-degree turn, change my life, change my body, change my mindset, to where like people would look at who I was in high school and they'd never guess that I am where I am now.
Yeah.
And people will look at me now, and even in 10 years, 15 years, they may not have suspected that I'll have the success that I will.
Right.
Because I believe it. I know I can get there. And it's like, you just have to believe it. Stop listening to the noise around you and just decide, okay, what level of success do I want to have? What do I want to have done? And like really figure out what your potential is. That's what this life is all about. Don't waste it.
I love it. Phil, I mean, guys, I'm so happy Phil came on the show. Like, we're going to, again, go follow him. All of his handles and everything, everywhere you can connect with him is below. It's always in the description. Go find him, follow him. If you're listening to this later, I mean, we filmed this at the beginning of March. If you guys are getting to this later, go look up his thing, see how he did with the summer sales, like see what he's doing right now. I guarantee he's putting up some motivational material, some really good stuff. If you want to learn more, reach out to him, get to know him. Because guys, he's one of the most phenomenal guys, and he's going to be super successful. So if you need to learn from him, just go follow him right now. And anyway, Phil, thanks for being on the show, dude. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Mikey. Really appreciate it.